Let's talk about real esports, though, and that is, so the Esports Observer, not the Esports, just Esports Observer reported that Riot is already approaching tournament organizers and esports organizations about the future plans for Valorant Esports. Yiska, what do we know?
Okay, so, I mean, like that. No, they're not talking. They've literally invited.
No
we just talked about Nate Shot. Like,
they're talking,
of course, it's.
You're talking about esports.
Wow, what an absolute nothing burger of a report. But okay, of course, this is nothing that I'm so secure about that I would report, because in that case, I would also feel a duty towards my employer to not talk about this here, but actually write a report about it. But there's definitely like people that talked about, like, I'm not sure if they talked to devs or whatnot, but that we're going to have in the first couple of months an open circuit in terms of like who can do those events and whatnot. In that regard, maybe not that different from what Overwatch had. Of course, like this is all determined by the current global situation. If LAN events are ever planned or whatever, like ideally you want like gaming conventions to have like tournaments with like invitationals or like open brackets there, like at a Gamescom or something like that, and then bring esports to the masses that way, and then get it onto these IEM circuits, like, you know, the entire MTG crew with like both ESL as well as DreamHack, those running tournaments, Face It, whatnot. I think that is actually who they're talking to, and that is the important part, that we're going down that route. And I also think it's absolutely necessary that we do this. Now, here's the distinct difference that needs to happen over what Overwatch did to these tournament organizers, because the strength of an open system is the following. You hedge your bets with these tournament organizers. They are in direct competition to deliver the best entertainment product, fighting for every viewer with their competition. We see it now in CS, even with like competing formats with like Flashpoint and ESL and whatnot. Like, especially when you have on the same weekend, you want to draw the attention over the other. This creates competition and forces them to refine your broadcast product the best way Valorant can be broadcasted as an esports for you. You have no risk there. All you probably need to do is tell these tournament organizers, for X amount of time, you have a tournament license, and we're doing nothing there. Now, here, that's the one thing that Overwatch didn't, in terms of like, yes, they probably gave like ESL assurance, okay, you're going to host these amounts of tournaments, but the regulations were ridiculous. Actually, positively, like, nobody can trial and error. Nobody can hedge their bets in terms of what works, what not. I was sitting at Takeover 1, like, being asked, like, dude, I know you're sitting in a gaming bar, but like, you're drinking a beer on camera. It's like, come on, man. Are we really helicopter parenting broadcasts already? Like in 2016 when this was a thing? So the best thing Riot can do is mostly be hands off, and just like, not by intentional design or intelligent design, if you want, but by natural selection, let these organizations figure it out for you, like it was the case for League of Legends World Royale. If I was Riot, I would go a full year at least before I even think about creating my own leagues or whatnot. Franchising, like, get out of here with that for that long, and let others test the system for you with no risk of your own. Of course, you can give them a little bit of money here, like stimulate the competition, reward certain organizers for doing a great show, assure them that maybe once you have a league format, your off season is then even past, like, you start your involvement. Okay, the off season is yours because you showed loyalty towards us. This is the way to go about creating these esports scenes, where it's like, We're hedging our bets. We're getting the best creative minds that have put esports on for many of them like almost 20 years now, right? And then you go in, you take the best ideas from everyone, and you create your esports, and then you have something rigid that lasts, like the LCS and like LEC and LCK and whatnot.
So I'll play devil's advocate because I mostly agree with everything that you're saying. My only worry is that, or not my only worry, but a worry that I already kind of feel is we're kind of past the age of third-party tournaments, right? It seems like every esport these days is developer run. Yes, in CSGO, we have a great functioning third-party system. It's not developer run. You have your majors, that's great, but you have people like FaZe, you have people like ESL, you have Flashpoint, you have all of these separate entities to put on and test systems and, you know, try to break the rules and create new formats. Is there enough of that these days to kind of benefit Valorant in that same way, so you can test the breadth of all different kinds of systems? We have a double elimination, we have a single elimination, we have GSL groups, is there enough of that now with people like MLG gone, with people like NGE back in the day with Overwatch gone? There's not a lot of those people left to do that. Is that worry you at all? Does that bother you? Do you hope that Riot and Valorant give some of these smaller tournament organizers maybe a little bit of a stimulus, let's say, to try and help test these systems so that they maybe one day can rally and kind of rope all the things together like they did with LCS and create their own developer run system in tournaments or whatever they decide to do? Does that bother you at all? Is that something that you're concerned with?
I think a lot of the people that are still around are still not signed to these huge developers. Like Sundance Di Giovanni is still independent.
100%.
And if he...
out there making control.
I'm not sure if you can, like convince him to run entire circuits again, because my understanding now is that they, like, especially like Adam Apicella, I think is his name.
Yep.
Like they are running, for instance... Esports Engine is running like tournaments like the homestands in Overwatch.
Right. They're running
CDL.
Events rather than putting it. Hopefully I'm understanding the product correctly. They're running events rather than putting on tournaments.
Yeah. But I feel like that's already the lion's share of the work, and you could slap a brand of them on them if they actually
possibly,
if there's actually an opportunity for that, and they would have free reign from what I can tell in NA for the most part, because the MLGs are gone, right? So of course IEM also has like global offices now, so maybe they can compete a little bit on American soil. But like, I mean, if this game is at all like going to be what it's like in CS, like Brazil has a huge audience there, especially like if some of the Brazilian superstar players transition to that game, maybe we see some transition there. I think Asia is going to be nuts, so it's definitely like maybe OGN you can get on board there, so you have that continent unlocked. Like then you're competing against Africa TV and all these stations there. You can get the Chinese broadcast companies on there. It's not necessary. I think it's more like, what about NA at the moment with these production companies? Not necessarily that we totally don't have these. And as it shapes up, like especially the Asian crowd, for me is like something I'm very cognizant of, because in my mind it's like CSGO never popped off because there's sudden attack. But what if we unify these universes and we can actually have that? And then you want something like the LCK there. And I think like the pre-established connections in League of Legends with like OGN and whatnot. I'm not sure who's running LCK now.
Just Riot. Don't know. I'm pretty sure it's just all in-house with Riot.
Okay, yeah. But like these production companies all over the world still exist. So let's just try, and then they can also develop local Optima. So like they can customize to what's their local needs. Because honest to God, I don't think you want a global league. You want occasional global competition.
You want international competition. You don't want everybody trying to travel everywhere like they're trying to do with the Overwatch.
Yes, and I'm not saying this. yeah, I'm not saying this because I expect next year to have the next global pandemic.
Yeah.
This shuts everything down. But because I think it's currently with the air travel that we have, like maybe one day when we fly into the stratosphere and you can like fly from Las Vegas to, I don't know, like Australia or like China within 3 hours or 2 hours. Okay, we can talk about that then. Then it's a different form of travel. But like currently, it's such a draining process. And if you have like home and away games, like league type of scenarios, that's not cool. Maybe a global circuit, like it feels more sustainable. I hear less issues from CS players traveling the globe, for instance, because they can also decide for themselves: do we want this? Do we need the off time here? Like these are the types of things that a global circuit allows you to do, and that a league doesn't necessarily do. So I think generally, there are definitely already these production companies globally in place, and if we optimize and tinker and take a little bit of the best, but also keep it towards like the culture of esports that the specific countries or places have, then like League, I'm not sure. Like a lot of viewers, I expect, aren't too accustomed with League of Legends, because I think maybe I'm misjudging, but a lot of the a lot of spike drop viewers probably either come from Overwatch, of course, or like from CS because of the similarity of the game. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with what Riot has been able to do, is that they have basically like 3 large soon franchise leagues. 2 of them are already franchised. The third one is coming. The one is the LCK in South Korea. One is the LCS in North America, and one is the LEC in Europe. And then is LPL franchised? I'm not even sure. That would be in China.
Won't comment, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, and then even within these or outside these, you have like cool local scenes with like still pretty cool viewership, tier 2 systems being engaged there. Like you can follow the narratives of these upcoming players, and all of that is like a gigantic organic machinery that just grew, and they're building upon this pre-existing infrastructure, and therefore it could, like on the principle of localism, work that way, and everyone could just still be enjoying Valorant, just in a little bit of different way that makes more sense to their respective cultures. And I think that is the way to growth, honestly.
Yeah, it's something that Riot has experience with as well. Obviously, looking at the history of League of Legends, that was, part and parcel of the case. You had champions, and what OGN was producing in Korea pretty early on. You had TSM and a lot of the MLGs, adopting some of the same tournament formats that they use in other games for North America. You had ESL operating in Europe, testing all of these different formats and figuring out what the best one was. And then 3 years down the line, or was it 3 years or was it 2 years? When did LCS start? What was like the LCS era? Was that 3 years in? I want to say it was 3.
Yeah, feels like that.
It feels 3. I could be wrong in that. Hopefully, the chat doesn't rip my head off. But
rip his head off, chat. Do it.
They have history on planting the seeds and then harvesting the crops and then building something that kind of stands the test of time. You have a track record of success with that, and I think that's going to be refined. I think there was some missteps on how that was all done and written, and how it was grown. And esports is obviously much bigger now, so I think that can be done much more safely and probably at a higher scale. I don't think quicker is necessarily better, because we've seen what happens when you're too quick and things get a little too messy and you still don't know exactly what's going on. So you need that growth time, but it's a measure of scale at when you kind of want to harvest the scene and kind of collect everything and then do everything in-house, which again, I'm of the assumption that it doesn't have to be in-house, but I think for business, it's probably better to have it in-house. Like if I'm Riot Games, I probably say, hey, why don't I just do this in-house? Why don't I just create my own thing and then stop everybody else? It's good for me, bad for everybody else, but it is what it is, I guess.
It's also the case.
Safe.
that's the thing. It is safe because even if one of your scenes completely crashes, there's no interest anymore. Maybe a local developer has like brought out their next installment of a game and it culturally just pops off. The system isn't dead because of that.
Yep.
If tomorrow an Overwatch 2.0 clone comes out, it's much better in China. There are then like 4 or 5 Chinese teams that don't have a support system there or no interest in the game anymore. That invalidates the entire idea of the league and is very easily able to kill the entire project, not just that in within there, because the entire structure is based on that. Mm-hmm. So by localizing these things, you also become much more resistant to these crisis situations, like we're, for instance, seeing now. Of course, like it's so to explain, because those tournaments or these leagues are localized, a lot of these teams are in one city somewhere in the world. And what that leads to now is they can just play each other from their home apartments, have great ping, there's no transport issue, we can just play online, stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay, you might say, oh, well, Yiska, but this is like such a black swan event, like this is not going to happen again, like once we're out of this, like fine, fair, but these structures make you more resistant to any kind of unforeseen events. Mm-hmm. That is the point. You are or dare I say anti-fragile towards these black swan events that you cannot possibly foresee. And while other leagues are crumbling because of it, you can at least maintain your level or like only maybe slightly go down. But because everyone else, like sports, is crapping out, your value, individual value, goes up to the point where the LCS, and I think LCK, like League of Legends, is now negotiating or has negotiated a deal with ESPN.
Yep.
Right? Yep. So they have proven that for them, the entire thing actually went down very well. Why? Because they were compartmentalized in their scenes, and it solved certain issues that also in other Fallout events will always make them much more resistant to these scenarios.
Yep. I think in general, as franchise systems progress in terms of like these big developer run, tournament or league structures, you're going to see more of that, how you put it, anti-fragileness with how the system is created. Because I don't think this is a black swan event. I think a global pandemic is like, the outlier here. But geopolitics are messy. Things can happen.
Yes.
Wars can start. Conflicts can arise where, volcanoes can erupt and air travel's canceled. The world is a very bizarre place. So one little move and your whole tournament goes debunk. And if your tournament goes debunk and that's the only thing you have, like Yiska is saying, the game goes debunk.
Yeah.
So when you have multiple different, tournaments and leagues and this, show matches and nothing, it's just one little switch turned off instead of the whole grid, the whole power mainframe being turned off and the city's dark. You don't want that. You want, an unfortunate, circumstance happens and this tournament can't happen, but your game isn't just dead. The competitive scene for that game isn't just put on hold for 2 months while, fallout from some weird power plant that had a, tsunami hit it or some sort of earthquake happened. All of these things are accessible and very, very likely to happen.
Just straight up Michael Bay moving us right now.
It's bound to happen at some point.
He's like,
yes, esports event canceled by earthquake.
Tsunami into power plant cancels esports. Got it. That's the one.
It's going to happen at some point, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like it doesn't mean because you regionalize the sports interest is regionalized. Mm-hmm. Like I read something like LCK, so the Korean league has 5 times as much international viewership as regionally, and like League of Legends is still by far the biggest game in South Korea in like their PCBang play rates, like over 60-50%. Will be interesting to see how that works out with Valorant, by the way. But like you can have global interest without necessarily being, that's the beauty of esports, the connectivity towards other cultures, that yes, we don't speak the same language, we don't all speak English, but the language that we speak is esports, and that is the beauty of it, where we can bond over these concepts or these personalities, these plays, these flavorful narratives that transcend cultures and can really dig them without necessarily having to be in the same room.
Yeah.
Well put.
It's great. I'm excited for the future of Valorant Esports. I think we all are. I think that there's we've got the 100 Thieves creator tournament coming up, right? Where it's 8 content creators creating their own teams.
Yeah, I'm slightly skeptical. I'm waiting to see. There is a weekly tournament coming up next week that I'll be paying attention to, but we'll have to see what 100 Thieves goes on and does. Hopefully it is like super competitive and we have some established teams. I know that T1 is out there, recruiting some people familiar with Overwatch, AZK and CSGO obviously is signed with them now, so that'll be exciting. I'm sure there'll be more signings to come, but we'll see with 100 Thieves. I'll be paying attention to it, but I'm slightly skeptical.
And this is something that I think honestly I think needs to happen.
Of course,
for early esports,
you want the creators to be celebrated. You need that content.
People with the platform to bring their viewers to gain interest in the game, and then they find the other people that they really like, and then from there you create an ecosystem, right? And you create this hopefully I forget the words that Yiska said, but like this kind of these beautiful narratives, and they all start with bringing viewers in. So really excited to see it. Really excited to watch. I've been watching, if I'm not playing Valorant and I'm not like having to listen on a call or something like that, I've got a stream open. I'm watching. I really enjoyed the developers versus the streamers. That wasn't the most competitive thing, but it was a glimpse of what we could expect.
It's a glimpse to what's to come. It's a foreshadowing of how ridiculous some of these games are. And if you haven't seen, please watch that, because there were some pretty interesting moments that are going to expand your brain. You're gonna be like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Well, this is crazy.
Joe, what's the weekly tournament that's not
I believe it's called Cascade. I'll give you one second. Cascade Leagues Weekly Cup North America #1. You can find that at liquipedia.net/Valorant. Go up to the top middle / left side of your screen. There should be a tournament tab. It's separated between ongoing, upcoming, and completed. And I think that's like the first inklings of these weekly tournaments, akin to some of the Alienware monthly melees for any old Overwatch heads that were around at that time. This is the start of the esports churn. We're going to see more of these pop up. We're going to see a team or an organization like Face It come in and say, hey, we're going to put on a one-time thing. I wouldn't be surprised to see Beyond the Summit. I hope Beyond the Summit comes into Valorant, because that would be fantastic. They do some incredible content with probably some of the lowest budget I've ever seen, and blow everybody out of the park. Yeah, I just thought of that. TV,
right?
Oh, I'd love for Take to come in and do that. Do something for Europe. Like,
oh yeah,
it would be beautiful.
Close to it too, dude. 100% there. Catch me there.
It's an interesting. It's a very fun time to be an esports fan. Valorant is going to be very big. It's going to pop off. It's already started, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So, big up.
Yeah, boy.